Hey smart people, Toby Salami here. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can build a fast WordPress website that is both cost efficient and smart. I'm going to give you 7 tips to ensuring that your website runs as fast as possible. This is by no means an exhaustive list, but is going to help you very much in making certain decisions about your website in the future. We'll start with the first of 7 tips. But before we start, I need you to subscribe to this YouTube channel if you've not already done so, because that's the only way you're going to get notified of the videos I release every single week. On this channel, I cover dynamic WordPress development tips that help you to build complex websites in the simplest ways possible. Let's start now with the first of the 7 tips. Every other tip you implement will be based on the correct implementation of this one tip. And that's right here. I have a list just for you to see it, is to get a fast web hosting or server. If you do not have a fast web hosting or server, there is absolutely nothing you're going to do. It's similar to this. You know, when a guy is stuck in traffic and you try to increase the horsepower of his car so that the car is able to run faster, but he's actually in traffic, what help is that going to do? You're not going to be able to move faster because you're limited by your circumstances. The same is true here. The first step is to get a fast web hosting or server. And for this one, I recommend Hostinger. Keep in mind that you need to get the VPS provision of Hostinger, not shared hosting, but VPS. And I'm going to tell you about that in a bit. All you need to do is to come to hostinger.com/TobySalami, click and enter, and you're going to be led to the page on which you can purchase a VPS plan. Right now, at the time of recording this video, there is a Black Friday sale going on at 64% off. And using the code TobySalami at checkout would also give you an additional 10% off. So it's a good deal if you ask me. Keep in mind that the cost you see may vary whenever you're watching this video. What do you get when you sign up for a VPS plan? You're going to get an AMD processor, which is one of the fastest processors out there. And the second thing you're going to get here is an NVMe SSD storage, which is just an SSD storage that helps you to read and write data from your storage as fast as possible. And this is usually very, very good. You also have free weekly backups, and that's absolutely important to ensure that you do not lose anything down the line. Let's sign up now for a VPS plan. What we need to do is click on Claim Deal. And now you see the different options you have right here. You have KVM 1, 2, 4, and 8. And those just simply signify the number of virtual CPUs that you're going to be getting along with each plan. You can see here that KVM 1, you have 1 virtual CPU, but you also have 4 GB of RAM. You have another 2 vCPU under the KVM 2, and you have 8 GB of RAM there. You can see the differences on each of those plans. The important thing to take note of here is that when you're just starting out and you're not ready to actually launch a website, you can make use of a smaller plan. But when you're ready to start, I recommend at the very minimum the KVM 2 for you to build out your website. It comes with 2 vCPUs, which is 2 virtual CPUs. It has 8 GB of RAM, which is more than enough for a caching solution, which I'm going to talk about down the line in this same video. You also have 100 GB of disk space, and that's absolutely good because I almost never could exceed this 100 GB, and 8 terabytes of bandwidth, which means you can have on the average about 2.5 million visitors every month, and you'll be completely fine. Okay, let's select this KVM 2, choose the plan, and go ahead to pay for it. We can click on choose plan. We're going to go straight to the cart, in which case I can now fill out the necessary details, including adding the coupon code, which will give you an extra 10% off. So let's do just that. Inside of the cart right here, it's asking if I'm not sure. I am sure. We have KVM 2. We have a period of 24 months. Of course, you can select 12 months if you so desire, but I'd recommend selecting 24 months so you can lock this in for a 2-year period. Once you're done selecting that, the next thing you want to do is to come down here and select have a coupon code and type in Toby Salami as the coupon code right there and click on apply. Now, once you click on apply, it's going to apply that coupon code and give you an extra 10% off, which you can see right here. You could, if you want to, select a daily auto backup. You also have the weekly, which is included for free. But if you want the daily auto backup, you definitely can select that. Next, you have your server location, which you can select from here. Just pick any country of your choice and any server location of your choice. It really doesn't matter because I'm going to show you how you can skip the problem of having to have a slow website because of the location of your server. We'll talk about that in a bit. Just remind me to talk to you about that. Next, you want to select your operating system. In this case, we're going to select Ubuntu and specifically Ubuntu 24.04 LTS. And if you're not sure what that is, don't worry about it. Ubuntu is just an operating system, just like you have Windows, that's an operating system. And all it helps you do is just install apps on your operating system, just like you install apps on your regular operating system like Windows or whatever else. Now I'm rambling, whatever. Anyways, Ubuntu and Ubuntu 24.04 as the version number. Next, you want to click on confirm and you are ready to go on with this. You could click on continue right here and you're going to land on the Hostinger login page, in which case you just have to enter your email address and password or create a new account. In my case, I already have an account, so let's just log into the account and make use of the VPS, which I have just added. Now, once you log in again to the Hostinger panel, you're greeted again with the different hosting plans. If you already have bought a hosting plan, you've made the smart decision to buy a hosting plan, you do not need to do anything about this. However, in my case, I already have a VPS here, which I'm going to start from scratch now. So I'm just going to come down here and click on VPS. As you can see, I have a VPS ready for me to set up. What I need to do is click on setup. And that's what I expect you to do too. When you click on setup, we're spinning up a new VPS. It's going to ask us for where the location of that VPS is. As I said before, you do not need to bother about what the location is here because, of course, we're going to make use of something that makes this not as relevant as it used to be. So click on next, and we're going to go ahead now to select what our operating system is. Again, it's Ubuntu. We're going to select 22.4 and click on select. What we want to do next is to create a root password for our server. So let's just type what that password is going to be right here. Not sure what password I just typed, so let me type that in again. Okay, now I'm done typing that. I'm going to click on next. You also have the ability to use an SSH key if you so desire here, but I'm just going to use a root password here and move ahead. Let's click on next now. And we have an additional feature which Hostinger can input into our server for us, which is the malware scanner. And this is very good. It's also for free, so why not? Let's click on finish setup here and let's see what next. It says it's setting up the VPS. It's going to go through and spin up that VPS so that it's as good to go as we possibly can imagine it to be. Now, while this is working, let me talk to you about something. Usually, when people talk about whether they want to make use of a shared hosting or whether they want to make use of a virtual private server, they're usually not very sure which to go for. And I want to explain it to you this way so that you can make this decision whenever you're faced with it. Now, what exactly is the difference between a shared hosting and a virtual private server or VPS hosting? Think of it this way. Imagine that you had a big house. And inside this house, you had a number of rooms in it, right? Imagine that you're a tenant inside one of those rooms and you share that room with other roommates. Are you imagining that? Good. Now, imagine too that all of your roommates inside this one room have to share the same kitchen, the same toilet, and all the other resources that make up the room, right? Now, what happens if one of your roommates one day decides, hey, you know what? I think I definitely am going to blow up the kitchen. I'm going to burn it down. And what happens to you who's sharing the room with him? You lose access to the kitchen because your roommate burned the kitchen. And so you are affected by your own roommate's decisions. That's exactly how a shared hosting works. Because in the case of a shared hosting, your roommates and their decisions affect you because you all share the exact same resources. But in the case of a virtual private server, think of it as the different rooms inside that big house. You have your own room, you have your own kitchen. Inside of that one room, you also have your toilets and every other resources that you may need to live comfortably inside of that one room. Now, will someone's bad decision in a different room inside of that house affect you? Possibly, but very unlikely, because if they decide to burn up their kitchen, well, your kitchen still remains and you can definitely make use of it, although you may be affected by the smoke and whatnot. In the case of VPS, it works exactly like that. So you have your own room and all the resources inside of it belongs entirely to you until you decide you need to move to another room or expand that room into a bigger room. It's entirely your choice. Do you see how all of this works here? And this is the reason why it is almost always important that when you're building a dynamic website that's going to be resource intensive, you don't want to rely on a shared space where another person's decisions can affect you. You want to instead make use of a VPS such as I am about to show you. Let me know in the comment section if that explanation makes a lot of sense to you. And while you're down there, make sure to hit the like button so that you let YouTube know that you like this kind of videos. Let's move ahead now because this is already done. It says, well done, you're ready. Let's do this. We can click on Manage VPS right now, and it's going to load our VPS dashboard in which we can see all of what is needed for us to manage this particular server. So we definitely can do that. It's asking us some more information just to get to know us. So it says, why do you buy it? I say, well, it's for commercial reasons. And what do you plan to do with it? Well, it's a website or a content site, whatever that is. And I can click on Save. And once I do that, the survey is submitted successfully. I'm good to go. Now, let me do a quick overview of this dashboard. What you have here is just what the operating system name is, the kind of server you're running, if that server is running, because remember, every server on the internet that's running every website on the internet is just like a computer somewhere on the internet. So when you spin it up, you're actually running it. You can shut it down. You can quickly reboot it. All of what you can do with a regular computer, right? It's just a virtualized computer somewhere on the internet. So you have an IP address for that. You can see the IP address right here, 72.61.5.246. And that's just the IP address for that particular computer on the internet. You can also change your root password right here, which I'm going to use to log in to this. Now, in the future, if you choose to change your operating system for one reason or the other, all you need to do is come inside of OS and panel, select operating system, and you can change your operating system right here. However, in the case I'm going to show you, you'll never need to change your operating system. This will be completely fine for you. Okay, let's go ahead now to install on top of the server something that can help us manage this server, because we have two routes to go here. The first route is to come inside of here, select operating system, come down here to application and select WordPress and then install WordPress. What we're going to have when we do that is a single WordPress website on this entire server. And in many cases, that works fine. But what if you want to run multiple websites? Then this is not the way to go. The second route you can go is to come inside of the OS with panel and then install the control panel on top of this server which you just spun up. Generally, people make use of cPanel or Plesk or every other of these options you see right here, but some of them come with their own licenses. So what do I choose to do? I choose to go for a third option. I leave it as a plain operating system, just Ubuntu as it is, and I want to show you just how I can do it for free. And if you want to in the future to upgrade, you definitely can do that. So I make use of xCloud, and this is what I choose to do to connect any server of my choice and install as many websites as that my server can contain. Now, what I need to do here is to click on Join Free. All you need to do is come to xcloud.host and then click on Join Free. And once you do that, you're going to have to sign up. And to sign up, all you need is an email address and a name. And a password, of course. So let's just click on this. Let's come inside of here. I want to type in my name and my email address. In this case, I'm going to write hostinger@tobisalami.com. And then I'm going to come to password and I can type in a password right here. I'm going to retype that password, ensuring that the same password is in both places. And I want to come down here and agree to the terms, which is the terms of service and the privacy policy. Be sure to read those before you accept this. Next, you want to click on sign up. And once you click on sign up, you're going to have an email sent to your email address, which you choose to enter as your email. What you need to do now is to go to your particular email provider and accept the verification of this email address. All you need to do is come inside of there and you can see an email from xCloud right here saying you need to verify that. Thanks for signing up. And I want to click on activate your account. Now, once I do that, it's going to log me directly into the xCloud dashboard. I can close that out and I can close this out too. And right here, I am inside my xCloud dashboard. What do I do next? I need to add the server. In other words, connect xCloud to the server that I have on hosting right here. And if you ask me, I really like this setup because it's pretty easy and comes with some extra features on top of what Hostinger excellently provides. So come inside of xCloud, you want to come down here. Although you have Hostinger as an option here, I wouldn't recommend this because this is going to try to spin up a new Hostinger server. But we already have a server, so we don't need to start a new one. All we need to do is to select any right here at the bottom. Once I click on any, I can scroll up right here. It says you can connect an Ubuntu 22.04 LTS, which we already have, right? So we need to connect this to Hostinger. It says give it a server name. I'm just going to call it whatever name is my choice here. Maybe I'm just going to call this Hostinger Awesome, something like that. It's going to say, well, what is the app type you're trying to install here? We're going to select from a list of options. It could be WordPress, it could be Laravel, or any of these options you have right inside of here. I choose to select WordPress in this case, okay? Now it says, well, what's the IP address of that particular server so we can go install what's needed on it? I'm going to say, oh yeah, of course I have that. I'm going to come back inside of here, come inside of settings, I believe. If you come inside of settings, you have inside of IP address right here, you have the IP address. So we want to grab the IPv4 address, just copy that, come inside of here and paste that IP address right inside of here. Hostinger provides an easy way for you to connect this to xCloud. Now, inside of SSH ports, we're just going to leave it the way it is. 22 is always the standard. We're going to leave that as is. It's going to ask for the SSH username. Do you remember? We store that somewhere. If we come back to settings, come inside of overview here, you see root access and you see SSH and you see the username before the IP address. So we're going to use that as root. Of course, that's the default here. So that's totally fine. It's going to ask us, so what's your database server? In other words, what is the application which you intend to use to manage your data, like your posts and your pages and all whatnot inside of WordPress? You could select either MySQL or MariaDB. I choose to select MySQL, and I'm also going to select the highest version, which is 8.4 right here. Once I'm done with that, I can choose to add tags here. The tags are just a way to identify from a list of many servers. I have only one, so I'm just going to leave that empty. Now, the next thing it asks me is what's the web server you want to make use of here? I could select from either Nginx or OpenLightspeed or Docker plus Nginx. And although these have their various use cases, I'm going to make use of OpenLightspeed for this particular demonstration. I'm also going to tell you why I chose this, and the reason is very simple. OpenLightspeed is one of the fastest web servers you can ever come across, and it helps you to achieve a very fast WordPress website. Plus, you also have a free plugin that can help you to connect your server with your website so that you have the fastest website possible. But enough of the rambling, let's go ahead. Click on OpenLightspeed and you want to come down here. It's going to ask, how do you want to authenticate your connection to the server? You can say, well, I want to make use of a public key or I want to make use of a password. If you're going to make use of a password, you're going to use the exact same password that you used when you were setting up this, which is your root password. So in this case, I'm just going to type in that password right here, hoping I remember what that password was. Let's just type that in. I'm going to say, yes, I have created a new server on my provider, and I need you to go to that server, set up whatever is needed to set up there because I don't want to have to do it manually. And then I can on xCloud begin to create my website that will live on Hostinger. Does it make sense? Let's go ahead now to click on create. Now, once you click on create, it says it's verifying. Let's hope it connects successfully to the server. Let's see if that happens as we expect it to. Does it work? Great. Now it's connected to the server and xCloud says, well, it's setting up your server, which is Hostinger Awesome, and it's doing that all in the background. You can close this page if you don't want to have to watch this happen. Sometimes it takes between 10 to 15 minutes, which you can see here, to create and set up that server. Now, while this is happening, let me tell you about something else. Let me take you back to my list of things that you can do, my recommendations to build a fast WordPress website. And the next one here is to use a CDN. Now, what is a CDN? A CDN simply stands for a content delivery network. I know, we're bordering on intermediate to advanced stuff here, but of course, you know that you're trying to build a website that's going to be resource intensive, so you have to know these things to build it out correctly. Okay, so as I was saying, a CDN simply means a content delivery network. And it is the reason why I told you before that selecting where your server location is not very necessary as it was in the past. In the past, before the advent of CDNs, when you select a particular server location, you want to absolutely make sure that the server location is in a place that is close in physical proximity to those you're serving the website to. So let's say your customers are in the United States. It will be best, it has always been the case, that the best approach would be to select a server that is also in the United States. Because if you select a server that is so far from the United States, every single person who is viewing that website on their device will be fetching that website from the server all the way in whatever country that server is. And that geographical distance really does matter for speed. So when a person types in the domain name, behind it, what actually is being fetched is the IP address. So it goes, looks for the IP address on the record and say, hey, that IP address belongs somewhere in Germany or Switzerland or somewhere else. And then it goes looking for the files to feed the browser. And that delay, because it's far away, makes the website itself slower. And this is why many professionals will recommend that you should make sure that you use a server that is in the geographical location of the people you want to serve your site to. But the thing is, there is something new that can help you to do this in a way that is even more efficient. And let's try to draw this out. Let's just try our best to draw it out. Okay, let's imagine that you have a big Earth. Now, this is the Earth. I know it looks funny, but let's say that's the Earth. And inside of it, we have a number of servers that you can choose from. These are computers on the internet somewhere on which you can build your website, right? Now, let's say that you chose this server, which is right here on this end of the Earth. And you have another server, which is somewhere right here. Let's change the color of that. So maybe we can select a different color so that this all makes sense. Okay, this is a different server right here. And this is yours, right? Now, if you choose a server right here, and your user is all the way here, how then do you ensure that your website is fast? Because every time someone from this country loads up your website, they have to fetch it all the way from here to here, right? That's how this is supposed to work. But in order to reduce the amount of time that it takes fetching all of those files and also speed up your website, we use something called a CDN, or a content delivery network. And what is that? A CDN simply helps you to redistribute your website to many different places. Your customers can be anywhere in the world. Let's say they're here. Let's use a customer that's somewhere here. And this customer tries to fetch your website. Now your CDN knows, hey, this user is trying to fetch it from here, and I have the website stored somewhere very close to him. So let me just select that right here and give him the website files from the closest to him. And this is exactly how it works. If you have another user who is maybe somewhere here, that particular user will get his own from a server that is very close to them. And that way, you have the fastest website possible because all of your users are in different geographical locations, but your website also is in many geographical locations. And for this, I recommend a CDN called CloudFlare. And let me just talk about how you can use CloudFlare to get this to work. All you need to do is go to cloudflare.com, sign up for an account on CloudFlare. Now, of course, because this sits on top of your domain name, you want to ensure that you already have a domain name. Click on Start for Free, and sign up for a new Cloudflare account. When you sign up, you're going to have to verify your account just as we did in xCloud. And once you're done with this, you'll have a Cloudflare account ready to go. I already have one, so I have it logged in right here. All I need to do is to come inside of DNS, come to records, and I have the records that are necessary for my domain name. In this case, I choose a domain name called allofwp.org. And right now, because the records are empty, if I try to load allofwp.org, what do I get? It says, well, this site cannot be reached because there is no website for it to reach. Okay. It means, therefore, that I need to enter into this right here, what my IP address is. And in that case, it's pretty simple. I'm not going to go into too much details about setting up Cloudflare and all of that. I'm going to include links, relevant links in the description below if you want to go in depth into that. I'm just giving you tips here, and this is already getting too long. Okay, let's click on add record now. And the record we're going to set up here is a simple A record, which is just going to point us directly to that IP address. So I'm just going to type in here which is going to say allofwp.org, and it's going to say, well, is it pointing to an IPv4 address? Yes, it is. I'm going to come back to Hostinger again, and I'm going to select that IP address right here, or come inside of settings and pick the IP address from here. Right click, copy, come to the CDN, Cloudflare, and click on paste. Once I'm done with that, I want to click on save. And just like that, I have this connected to my IP address. Just in case someone types in www, I definitely can select that here. So I can just come add a CNAME record and type in www and say I want to target the same, which is the @ The @ just says my domain name. That's what I want to target. So I'm saying if the person types in www, I also want it to link to the exact same website. So I'm just going to click on save here. And what does it do? It also creates that record for me. So I have two of the most important records I need at my DNS level to set this up. Once we're done with this, let's go back to xCloud and see if this has been successfully set up. I'm just going to click on xCloud. And what I see here is that it is completely set up and connected. And it says here there's a security update and you need to reboot the server at Hostinger. Let's do that. So I'm just going to click on reboot now. Once I click on that, it's going to say, well, we're going to reboot this. I'm going to say, yeah, go ahead, reboot it. Do whatever you need to do. Just set it up the way it should work and we should be good to go. Now, once I click on that, it's going to go ahead and reboot this server. Let's give it a few seconds and it should be good to go. Oops, it's already done. Next, you can very easily begin to add whatever is the number of websites that you choose to add inside of xCloud. And what it actually is doing is interacting with Hostinger, which is providing the server for you to manage your website, right? As you can see here, the details you see on Hostinger are also what you see right here on xCloud. You can see the IP address, you can see the plan you're on. In this case, you're on the free plan, which means you have only up to 10 sites that you can manage on Hostinger right from xCloud. But that's not a limit Hostinger sets, it's a limit that xCloud sets. But if you need to increase that limit, you definitely would need to sign up for a paid plan. You have inside of here the RAM, which is the same as what we have right here on Hostinger. You have the web server, which is Open Lightspeed, which is the fastest web server you can use to achieve the fastest site. You have the database, which is MySQL, and the operating system, which is Ubuntu. You also have the disk usage here, which shows you that you have a total of 104 gigabytes. Hostinger is generous enough to give us even more than the 100 gig we purchased. We're good to go now with the next step, which is just to install a new WordPress website. We can install up to 10 here. Let's do just that. Let's click on install. And this would generally just go to ask you your site title. In this case, I just want to say, well, the site will be called All of WP. And it's going to say, well, what's the tag? If you need to categorize the number of websites, but I don't need to do that. It's going to say, do you want to go live or do you want to use a demo site? You can only select go live if you are sure that you've already come inside of your CDN or wherever you manage your domain name records and you have that domain name pointing to the particular IP address of the server. If you have not done that, then you need to maybe select a demo site for now, which is just going to give you a custom domain that you can make use of. And when you're ready to go live, you change it to your original domain name. But for now, let's just select go live. Next, we want to select what the domain name is. I'm just going to paste that domain name right there. It's allofwp.org. It's going to ask us, do you have an additional domain name that's going to be used for this website? I don't. This is okay. So I'm just going to go right ahead. It's going to say, do you want a WordPress multi-site? I do not want that. If you know what that is, you can definitely use that, but that's not something I use because it has its own drawbacks. Let's go ahead now. It says you need to set up the DNS this way. You need to add an A record. You need to add that for the domain name and add that IP address. Did we do that? We definitely did that. That's what we did right here. So let's go right ahead. Now, you do not need to bother with clicking on verify my DNS because all it's going to tell you is that your domain is not pointing to the server. And why is it going to tell you that? Because inside of Cloudflare, what we have here is a proxy domain. What that means is that it's going to hide this IP address for security reasons. It's going to be showing the Cloudflare's IP address and not your own IP address to people who care to know what your IP address is. Cloudflare kind of prevents you from seeing that IP address. So xCloud is not going to be able to see that the domain name is pointing to that IP address because Cloudflare is blocking that. So no need to click on verify my DNS. We just need to leave it as is. We go ahead now. It says to enhance your WordPress performance, you need a plugin called Lightspeed Cache. And why is Lightspeed Cache important here? Because we're using a Lightspeed web server. I'm going to talk about that in a bit. But anyways, once you're done, you select that. It's going to ask you, do you want to connect to an email provider? If you want to, you can toggle on the xCloud managed email service. But in my case, I don't want to use that, so I'm just going to toggle that off. Inside of here, you have different blueprints to start your website. In my case, I don't want to make use of a blueprint, so I'm just going to toggle off blueprint. I don't want to have a starter pack of any sort. I want a clean WordPress install. Next, I'm going to click on next. And if I want to see my username and password and all of that stuff, I can come inside of advanced settings and see that here. But I really don't care about that because there's an easy way for you to log into your admin accounts using xCloud. Just click on next. Now it's going to go through and start to install our website at allofwp.org. And this will enable you to have your website up and running on Hostinger. Now, remember, this is what is going on and I need to lay it out for you. We have spun up a server on Hostinger, and on top of Hostinger, we installed xCloud, which is just a management platform for us to manage the different websites on our server. So let's edit this. I'm going to call that xCloud right there. And on top of xCloud, what did we do? I'm just going to duplicate this, raise this right above here to show that to you. Maybe give it a different color such as this. And I'm going to say this is where I have CloudFlare, which, remember, CloudFlare just helps you to spread your website around the world so that whoever is visiting your website from wherever in the world has your website loading up fast for them. It's a content delivery network. Let's just align this because I'm a little bit of a perfectionist and this looks all right. Now, we have Hostinger, and on top of that, xCloud, and on top of that, Cloudflare. Now, whenever any user is trying to visit your website, they will all be coming through Cloudflare. All of them through Cloudflare, just like that. And what will Cloudflare do? Cloudflare will make sure that it verifies that it is secure enough for that particular connection to go through. And then it will send that to xCloud, which will verify that such a website exists on its list. And then that one will then be sent to Hostinger, which will harden up the security before sending out whatever files are necessary. All of this will be done in a way that is fast and also efficient. Now, when the users come visiting your website through Cloudflare, Cloudflare checks, well, is this particular request legitimate? Then it goes ahead to say, okay, hey, xCloud, I have a request for this particular domain at this IP. xCloud says, hey, of course, we have such a domain name. I need to communicate with Hostinger, and Hostinger, with its security practices hardened up, will then begin to send out that particular request of that website back to xCloud. xCloud will then send that back to Cloudflare, and Cloudflare will then, of course, send that back out to whoever is the particular user that is requesting for the website. Do you understand how all of this infrastructure works? It pretty much is very easy. And this way, we're able to ensure that the website loads fast at every single level. However, there is one more important addition to this loveliness. Whenever a user comes back requesting for that exact same page, Cloudflare says, hey, I think someone requested that page before. I'm just going to send that same page out again to whoever is asking for that page. I don't need to go to xCloud, to go to Hostinger or whatever. I'm just going to send it out because I have it stored somewhere on a server close to this particular user. And this right here saves you a lot of money. And how so? You save up on the total bandwidth you have available to you, given to you by Hostinger. Because this bandwidth actually is how much data is sent in and out of your WordPress website or whatever is installed on top of this particular VPS server. And Hostinger is recording that, saying, hey, you have a total of 8 terabytes, so you only have this number of visitors. You can increase that number of visitors simply by using a CDN, just like we have inside of here. Now let's come back inside of xCloud. What we have now is the site completely spun up and ready to be made use of. This is absolutely marvelous, don't you think so? If you're enjoying this video so far, be sure to subscribe to this channel if you've not already done so, and be sure to hit the like button so that YouTube knows that you enjoy this kind of stuff. Okay, let's move right ahead. Just in case you come back inside of the domain name, whatever it is, and you refresh it and it keeps showing that, well, there is nothing to show here, or the IP address does not yet exist, all you need to do is to come back inside of here, come back to servers, the list of servers, so you can see all of the servers. This is Hostinger right here. Just right click or click on this particular 3 dots menu option right here and restart Lightspeed. And that way you're going to have your site ready to show up. If it just shows up without having that extra step, you've won in life. Go ahead. Okay, now you have all of wp.org ready to be made use of. How do you log in? All you need to do is come back inside of that server, and we want to select that particular website, which is all of WP right here. Of course, you can add a new site if you so desire, but let's just click on all of wp.org, click on magic login, and what will happen? It's going to go to all of wp.org, and without entering any password, it's logged in to your WordPress website. Just like that, you have your website ready to use. Let's come back now to the list of things we can do to speed up our WordPress website, and we're going to take the next one. The next one here is making use of a caching solution. And how do you do that? Because we're making use of Lightspeed as our web server, we can verify that. We can come back inside of our dashboard right here. Let's clean up this dashboard. I don't want to have to see all of this. You know me, I like to keep things clean. We're going to come inside of the dashboard right here, and we want to come down here to Tools and click on Site Health. And when we click on Site Health, we're going to come inside here to Info. And inside of Info, we're going to scroll down here to Server. And what do you see here as a server architecture? You see it's Linux, which is Ubuntu, and which is actually a Linux variant. That's what it says right there. You have the web server just below it, which is Lightspeed. And this is good. Because our web server is Lightspeed, we need a caching solution that's going to work excellently with Lightspeed. And what is that? It's called Lightspeed Cache. You can see it right here. If you click on plugins, you see it's already installed inside of here. You can see Lightspeed Cache right here. Let's delete these 2 other plugins. I really don't need them right now. You can just click on delete, click on apply, and okay. Now that's okay. We have only Lightspeed Cache installed on this particular website, and it is the plugin that helps you connect directly to the Lightspeed web server and serve out cached files. Now, you may be wondering, what exactly is caching? What does the word cache even mean? The fact is this: every single time someone tries to access your WordPress website, what the person is actually doing is asking your WordPress website, hey, I need this particular page. And your WordPress website says, well, yeah, I have that page. And then it asks PHP, which is the programming language below WordPress, to say, you know what, build up that page and let's serve it to this particular person. And PHP goes ahead, goes to build up the page. It says, well, we need this and this and this, and it builds out the page. It says, oh, we need something from the database to show inside of here. So it calls SQL. And SQL says, hey, well, yeah, I have what you need. Here it is. And SQL gives PHP, PHP collects it, builds out the page, and serves HTML. If that's complicated information, it really doesn't matter. The point is this: every time someone tries to load your WordPress website, you have to invoke all of these things and get them to work. As you may have already determined from what I just explained, the process of having to build out the page is actually a complex one. And because all of this is going to happen, then you have a slower website. Enter caching. Caching is exactly what you use to speed up the sending out of these WordPress pages. So, the first time a person visits your WordPress website, let's just open again this, I need to draw just another. Don't get tired of the drawing. You're going to have so much of drawing today. Let's say a person tries to visit a particular page. The person has had this page seen in the past. This is the page. Let's just say this is the page. I don't know if that page looks nice to you, but either way, that's the page. Now, a person tries to visit the page. And so your server builds out this page and sends it out to the person. Now, once that page has been interpreted by the person's browser and the person can see it, then it gets dismantled at the server level. It's nowhere to be found. So in order to ensure that the next person who comes asking for the same page just gets the already built out version, this is when we need something called cache. So let's just type that inside of here, cache. Now, what does the cache do? It ensures that a version of the same page which a person has previously viewed in the past is saved on the server. And we don't need to invoke all of these things to try to build out the page anymore. It just sends out the already built out page to such a person. Does that make sense? Now, because that is a possibility, we need something to help us do that. And that's why we need Lightspeed Cache. Now, the process of setting up Lightspeed Cache is actually quite a lot. There are a lot of things to set up inside of here, but I could do something for you that makes this quite easy. Lightspeed has presets. You can just come to presets and you see there are different caching levels right here. You can have essential caching all the way to extreme. And because this is just the build out of the page which a person views, then there are certain things that can be done to ensure that that cache is as efficient as possible, such as ensuring that when that particular cached page is sent out, it is saved in that particular person's browser, so that if the person tries visiting that page again, then it doesn't need to even ask the server for it. Even the cached version on the server doesn't really matter because the person has a cached version on his own browser. So the next time he tries to visit it, the website just loads fast, just like that. And the reason is he has something called browser cache, which Lightspeed can also help you set up. On mobile, because the sites can look different, you also need something called the mobile cache. All of these are part of the Lightspeed Cache plugin and can help you to set it up pretty fast. You have a lot of different customization options here. If you need me to cover in depth all of this, let me know in the comment section below. However, I usually go for the advanced or the recommended caching solution settings here by just coming down here and selecting apply preset. And what does that do? That just goes ahead and applies all the various settings needed to ensure that my website is as fast as possible. Sometimes I go up to aggressive or use at least settings from aggressive by just coming inside of here, selecting like page optimization, and inside of here, I tweak all of these settings one by one according to how I so desire them to be. There is yet another cache which we have not yet talked about here, and that is called object cache. I need to talk about this one specifically because in general, there are different things playing out when you try to visit a WordPress website. You have one of them, which is PHP, which is trying to build out the page and build out HTML and send it out to the person's browser, right? That's how it works. But you also have SQL, which SQL manages your database or the things you store like your posts, which you see here, your pages and stuff like that. Now, what usually is the problem when you're trying to cache a website is that although it builds out the page the way it should be, your page is usually not static. As you know, which I've covered multiple times on this channel, I don't really talk too much about static websites because we're building on WordPress, which helps us to do dynamic websites. If you don't know what that means, I have videos covering all of that. However, the point is this: because we're dealing with dynamic stuff, we also need to cache, in other words, store somewhere else whatever has already been queried from the database. And how do we do that? We use Redis or memcached. Each of these options are free options that can be used to do just that. I like to use Redis. So inside of here, I select Redis as my caching solution for my database. And inside of here, we have all of these settings, which will by default be set up. Even the username and the password, all of them by default set up by xCloud. And that just saves me the problem of having to figure out how to set all of these things up. I don't need to figure all of those out. Because of this, I also have a faster WordPress website, and my queries too are cached, which means all of what it's retrieving from the database, if someone has retrieved that before, it ensures that it has it ready to go at all times. And this just helps to achieve a faster WordPress website. Again, I could go in depth into this. I could really dissect this. This could take me, 3 hours or 4 hours to explain, but I could really go in depth if that's what you want. Let me know in the comment section below. Okay, let's go ahead to the next tip here. The next tip has something to do with something many people do not talk about, and that is this: optimizing your assets for size and loading. What does that mean? It just means that whenever you think of uploading a picture to your WordPress website, you want to first optimize that picture, because think about it. What really happens again when a person tries to visit your WordPress website? It requests for that page to be built. And sometimes what is contained inside of that page is something like your image, an image of a person, right? Or an image of something else. Usually, the clearer an image is, or the more data is contained inside of that image, the larger the file size is. But when the browser requests for that, let's draw something else. Time to draw. Let's draw something else here. Imagine that the browser requests for this. And this right here, inside of this is your page. And this inside of here is a picture, right? Now, because the picture is saved somewhere inside of your server, it needs to request that as a separate asset to build out this page, right? So it needs to come from somewhere right here, right? Now, whatever that picture size is, let's say the picture size, the total size for that particular picture is 2 megabytes. What do you think is going to happen to a person's data when they try to visit this website? You know that this entire page will be more than 2 megabytes. And why is that? Because of the fact that this image itself is 2 megabytes. The point, you need to reduce drastically the size of whatever assets will load on a page, because the higher the amount or the higher the data that's consumed in order to download these assets, the slower your site will be to load up. So how do you solve this problem? Let me show you in a very simple way. You need to optimize your images using something called squoosh.app or many other such apps. They're everywhere on the internet. You can optimize your images before you upload them to your WordPress website. Let me give you an example by coming inside of Pexels, and let's just download an image, any image of our choice. There is a nice image inside of here. Let's just try to download this. So we're just going to click on download. And now when we click on download, we're going to save this somewhere inside of our computer. And the next thing we want to do is check the size of that image. Can you see? It's 2.2 megabytes. That's a huge size, because whenever someone tries to load it, the person has to download the entire 2.2 megabytes. And people are generally on their mobiles and not on very fast internet. So what you're just going to do is slow down your website by uploading an image of this size. So what do you do instead? You come inside of Squoosh, you just take that image, come inside of Squoosh and drop it right inside of here. Now, there are different things we need to check about this image. For one, the image is pretty large. If you click on resize here, you can see that the image is 5,462 pixels. That's super large. Even on a computer screen, you should have maybe maximum of 2,000 pixels for a computer screen. How about mobile? It should be even smaller than that. So you want to make sure that you adjust the width depending on wherever you're placing that image inside of your design. You may not need as many pixels as that image actually contains. So let's say we want to drop that down to like 2,000 pixels. That's okay. And what do you see down here is that it has already dropped the image size 85% lower than the original image. But there is even more. You also need to, apart from resizing, select the compression type. In this case, you have JPEG selected, but I would recommend that you select WebP. We have WebP version 2, but that's unstable, so let's just select WebP. If you select WebP, take note of how many percent reduction you have now. 91% reduction, all the way from 2.2 megabytes to 210 kilobytes. And that's because the width is actually up to 2000 pixels. If it was even smaller than that, then you're going to have an even smaller size. If you take a look at it side by side, on the right hand side, you have the compressed image. On the left hand side, you have the original image. Looking at it from the right hand side is a bit pixelated. But if you zoom out, can you notice what the difference is? No, it just looks great. Now what happens when you download this? It downloads with the file format of WebP, and you can upload that right inside of your WordPress website media. Keep in mind, the tip here is not to upload any images to your WordPress website unless that image has been optimized. So drag in the WebP image and you're good to go. Now, all the way from 2 megabytes, you see the file size dropped all the way to 144 kilobytes, which is absolutely marvelous. Now you can close this out and you have an optimized image ready to go. That's it for optimizing the assets such as images that you upload to your WordPress website. There is something else you can do. Because when a person loads a page, let's come back to our drawing, you could have multiple of such images. Let's just duplicate this, bring this all the way down. Let's say you have another of such image down below here. But when a person first loads the page, the person can only see what is within what is known as the person's viewport. The viewport right here is what the person can see once the person loads the website, which means that this particular image down here below that viewport is not necessary until the person scrolls all the way and arrives at that particular image. So you don't need to download that image, technically speaking, unless a person has scrolled up to that image, which will therefore reduce the size of your page and make the site a lot faster. So what do? You apply something, a technique known as lazy loading. Of course, WordPress comes with it as of, I think, WordPress 5.5 or something. It comes with lazy loading by default. But Lightspeed also has lazy loading as an additional functionality. It also helps you to further increase the amount of settings you have available to you. You can just come into image optimization right here on the left. And under media settings, I think that's where it is, you have lazy load image right here. You can load images only when they enter the viewport, and this will reduce the page loading time, just as you see inside of there. And that makes sense if you get what I'm saying. Okay, you can turn on lazy loading and click on save changes. And just like that, we're done with this particular item on our list of options to build a fast WordPress website. Let's go to the next tip right here. And the next tip is to use efficient code or queries, page builders, and snippets. In these particular parts, there's a lot to talk about, and it all depends on what your stack is. And when we're talking about stack here, we're talking about the kind of page builder you use, whether you're using Elementor or Bricks Builder or whatever kind of page builder you use to build out your WordPress website pages. The point is this: every one of these page builders have a number of things they do behind the scenes in order to build out your page, in order to get your page looking the way you want them to. Some page builders have options for you to toggle on in order to reduce the amount of code that they output in the front end. Because the more the code you output in the browser, the slower the site is going to be. This is very nuanced, and I can go into very specific details about a particular page builder such as Elementor or Bricks or even Gutenberg, but it all depends on you. So let me know in the comment section below what page builder you use and whether you want me to go in depth into optimization as it relates to that particular page builder. You may also use other tools such as Jet Engine, which I very much use. You can see very many videos on my channel about Jet Engine. Jet Engine also has optimizations that are specific to it. So every single plugin or theme has what you can do to it to ensure that it's as optimized as it should be. So whatever is your choice or whatever you use, whatever is your stack, let me know in the comment section below and I can cover this. But just know that you should use those kind of tools that are efficient in their loading and not those kinds that are known to be pretty slow. Okay, let's go to the next tip here. And the next tip is to minify and combine files. Again, whenever you load a WordPress website, let's come back to my drawing right here. You see that every single asset on the page has to be sent out to the person's browser, and the browser has to download every single asset. Now, the point is that you could have many things responsible for the design on your page, and they all walk through a language known as CSS. Now, CSS files can be many. You could have multiple of them. And because you have multiple CSS files determining the design of this page, all of those CSS files have to be fetched from your server right into the browser. Whatever the browser is, it has to fetch every single one of them. And that, as you know, can be very, very time consuming, which would further increase the page load time. So you want to ensure that all of those CSS files, every single one of them, are combined into one. Just one CSS file, or maybe two, that can be served just once to the person's browser. And usually, what that will require is that that particular CSS file is minified, what is known as minification. And what is minification? It will be minified in a way that all of the spaces inside of that code are removed, so it can further reduce the amount of that file size, making it a smaller file that can be served just once or twice to a person's browser. And that speeds up your WordPress website. Keep in mind that not just the file size, but also the number of items requested to the browser can increase the page load time. So you want to get this down to just a few of these files, maybe as many as one. And how do you do that? You use minification options. If you come inside of Lightspeed, come down here. Let's check inside of our CSS settings, still inside page optimization. You have CSS minify right here, which will remove all of the spaces inside of the code so that it's as lean as possible. And then you have the combine, which will then pack all of them into one or two CSS files that can be served to the browser. So in order to do that, you need to toggle on CSS combine and save. You can also, if you want to, do the same thing for JavaScript. You can also combine it and minify it and save. You can do the exact same thing for HTML, which is the markup language, to minify it. In other words, remove all of the unnecessary spaces and things from inside of it so that it sends the leanest page possible. Okay, let's go back now to our drawing and go to the next option on our list of items to build a fast WordPress website. And the last, but not the least, is number 7, which is to build correctly. There is a lot to talk about here, a lot. But to explain what I mean, let's just go back to the site and let me spin up a very quick page. I don't want to have to install a page builder for this particular demo, but let me just say I have a simple page such as this. This is a sample page. Let's open this in the front and let's see what we have inside of the page. We have, content inside of this page. Let's try to edit this page. Let's just click on edit and see if we can use the editor, the Gutenberg editor, to edit this page. Okay. Now, this page is made up of blocks and you can add inside of it more blocks. This is not a tutorial on how to build a WordPress website. This is by no means a way to show you how to build a WordPress website. What I'm doing here is just showing you things to avoid. Now let's click on enter and add a new block. We have, of course, the opportunity to add a new block inside of here. So let's just say we want to add a column. Let's just add a column inside of here. We say, well, yes, we have the ability to add a column that looks like this, and this is okay. Okay, so inside of this column, we say, okay, we want to add a heading. So we add that. Inside of that heading, we type in whatever we want right inside of there. Let's say my heading. Okay, now remember this, let's open this up so you can see what's really happening inside of here. You have a column. Inside of that column, you have another column. Inside of that, you have a heading. Let's say inside of this first column, we intend to add inside of there another column. We can, of course, add it if we so desire. Let's say this one is a 2 column inside of here. And then inside of that, let's say we have another heading. Let's add another heading there. It says it's heading 2. or whatever we want to call that. Or maybe let's call that heading 3 and change that semantically to heading 3. It really doesn't matter. The point I want to make, I'm going to make that point. Okay, we have another column inside that column. Now, inside of this one column inside of here, we want to add even another column. So let's add that right inside of here. We're going to click on enter and say we want to add another column. And let's say that's going to be, 2 columns. It really doesn't matter, but maybe we want to reduce that number of columns to 1. So let's come down here and reduce that to 1. We have 1 column inside of there. Okay, inside that column, let's say we want to add even another column. We're going to type inside of there, another column. Can you see what's going on inside of here? You have columns inside of columns. And actually, although Gutenberg calls it columns, what those are actually divs. And a div is just a container for whatever can be put inside of it, right? Now, if you save this, although this page looks like it's built correctly, if you save this, and then you come inside of here, of course, first of all, let's come inside the last column and add one particular item right inside of here. Let's say we add the paragraph text and say this is the last item inside of here, something like that. Okay, let's say we're done with that and click on save. Now, visually speaking, this looks okay, but what have we done here? We have basically done for something that needed just 2 columns. We've basically added a number of columns. We've nested this right inside of there. And that is what many people know as divception. As the name implies, it sounds like deception, and that should give you the right idea. Just search for it. Just search. What is divception and why is it bad? You can search for it here. You can see here, divception is a bad term for web development code that is excessively nested with div elements. It creates a deep and messy div soup. This poor practice is often a result of using certain website builders or quick fixes, bloats the code, negatively impacts performance, and harms accessibility and SEO. You see, it's all bad. Trying to nest things inside of this div, inside of this div, inside of this div, then what you have is performance issues. You want to make sure that you use as few nested divs as possible so that your website loads as fast as possible. If you come inside of the front end after saving this page, let's just save this page. I want to show you how it looks in the front end. We can come and click on view page. Let's just view that page in the front end. We can right click on inspect, and let's just take a look at what really happens here. I don't need you to understand how to code to show you this. All I need to show you is really what is happening inside of here. You have right here, let's start from here. You can see by the highlighting here that this is the column inside of which we have what is needed. If we open that inside of there, what you have inside of here is another column. And inside of that, you have the heading. And just below it, you have another column, which you can see is a div. You can open that inside of there. You have another div. You open that, another H3, then another div, and open that, another div, and open that, another div, and another div, and another div before you get to the paragraph tag or whatever is the text inside of here. The point of this is this. Divception is bad. It is just one out of the very many practices that create performance issues on a WordPress website. Avoid it at all costs. As little divs as possible is always better. Elementor calls this containers. Bricks also calls this containers, but also has what is called blocks. All of them are just divs. Use as few of these nested into each other as possible, as that will help your website performance. This is just scratching the surface of what building correctly really means. It's really just scratching the surface because this covers a wide range of practices here. And of course, I'm happy to go in depth into every single one of these tips if you just tell me which one of them interests you in the comment section below. I really do hope that after this, what's more than an hour of video content that you've just watched, that you're able to pick even if it's 1 or 2 of these tips, and that you're able to implement these tips right away. I'm happy to share more with you. All you need to do is subscribe so you don't miss another video like this in the future. My name remains Toby Salami. I'm signing out now. Stay dynamic.